Hi, I'm the author of Box Girls. It's available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Nobles. And I would like to share with you Chapter 4 of my book, The Funeral. Sophia was sitting in her room contemplating the story of her father's life. She felt sad and angry, thinking about the dirty trick that life had played on her father. Having witnessed the death of his own father when he was 5 years old, changed him forever. She still remembers the day that her father told her how Grandpa had died. She remembered the anger and deep sadness that she saw in her father's eyes that day. It was like he was reliving the event that tormented his soul for so many years. That is why she had such a hard time continuing the story with Magnus the other day. It was just too disturbing. She just had to catch her breath. Anyway, she felt better now. And after dinner, Consuelo and her would corral Magnus and chat with him some more. Consuelo, are you done yet? I want to hurry up and talk to Magnus. I think he leaves early from work today. And he has been asking when we are going to tell him the next part of the story. Well, here he comes. He has a pop and a bag of chips. I guess he's ready for his break, said Sophia. Come on in, Magnus. We are ready for you, stated Sophia. Consuelo, you know this part of the story best. Why don't you tell it? Well, 2 days after the Murrietas shot my grandfather, they had the funeral. There were 900 people that came that day to pay their respects to my grandfather, Jose Gutierrez Ramos. My grandmother grieved deeply over the loss of her beloved husband. She not only grieved for him, but she would soon grieve over the loss of her children. My grandfather Jose was not just her husband, but he was her protector. We must not forget that she was a member of the royal family in Russia, and she had survived the massacre of her father and mother and siblings. Jose's job was to keep her safe and their own children safe. With him gone, she no longer had that safety net. She knew deep in her soul that if the enemies that killed her family knew that she had survived and had children, they would all be dead. She could not let that happen. So on the day of the funeral, she made the decision to return to Spain by herself without the children. She would send them back to Mexico, and Evangelina, the oldest one, would raise them. It was a terrible decision that caused her to grieve every single day of her life. She had to do it to keep the children alive. One day she would explain to them, and she would hope that they would forgive her. So in 1 week, they lost their father and mother and got sent to Mexico to live and to be raised by their oldest sister. In her heart, she would never forgive herself for leaving them, but it was something that she needed to do for their safety and well-being. There would always be a creeping sadness in her heart that would never leave her. Are you telling me she just left them after the funeral? I can't believe that she did that. How did that happen? Questioned Magnus. Sophia started in. She faked her death with the help of her uncle, the old man. The children were initially told that their mother had died. The funeral had to be believable, and believe me, it was. The children were weeping uncontrollably at their mother's funeral a few days later. Once the children were in Mexico, they were told the truth. It was all very sad. In the same week, they lost their father and mother. My father, who was 5 years old at that time, he quit talking for a while. In fact, it would be a long time before he spoke again. He had been traumatized about what had happened. A 5-year-old should never have to see his father die. The face of the Murrieta that shot his father was burned in his memory forever. My grandmother left for Spain and shipped the children to Mexico because that was the only way to keep them safe. She had to bury their identities, said Consuelo. Wow, said Magnus, I didn't see that coming. How sad that must have been for your grandmother. She loses her husband and children all in 1 week. Well, that is the end of chapter 4, and thank you for listening.